by the standards of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. The ceremony last weekend, in which Pope Francis appointed 19 new cardinals, was a glittering occasion. Among them was the head of the Roman Catholic Church in England, Cardinal Nichols. His elevation means that he joins the ranks of the Pope's most senior advisors and, in theory, could become the first English Pope since the Middle Ages. Not likely, but he may well be involved in the election of the next Pope, and so he will help set the direction for Catholicism over the coming years. And he's been making some waves recently here, with strong criticism of the impact of the government's welfare reforms. Cardinal Nichols is with me now. Good morning, Chicago.
Good morning.
You have been speaking out about issues like inequality and poverty. Is this a sign of a change in the Church under the new Pope? Church speaking less about sort of matters of personal sexual morality and more about big social issues?
Well, certainly Pope Francis, with his experience from South America, is very committed to saying that the unfolding of the Christian faith means having a particular eye for those who are poor. He has a very striking phrase: if you want to listen to God, you will hear the cry of the poor. And my comments were simply to reflect what priests on the ground are telling me, up and down the country, and certainly in the city.
Well, I was wondering about that because ministers have attacked you for what you said about the welfare state, saying that they are spending more and more and more on the welfare state. The bills are going up, and so that any notion that the safety net has been shredded can't be true, and that you were well-meaning but you were naive about that.
Well, it'd be nice if they commented on what I actually said, which was to say that the evidence is there that people are living in destitution. Now, that's a fact. I'm not naive to state facts, but it's accurate. And what's been interesting to me is that since I made those remarks 10 days ago, different voices have joined in and said, yeah, that's right. In fact, even before I said that, there was a committee of the House of Commons that made a report on the 28th of January, making some very similar points. So I'm quite glad now, for example, that there is an independent committee that's going to be looking into the incidences of poverty, chaired by the Bishop of Truro, and I think that's a very good thing.
But what about the comments by Ian Duncan Smith, for instance, who said that it's not moral, it's not Christian for quite poor taxpayers to be contributing to welfare bills which could be sort of 50, 60, 70,000 pounds, or could be before, for people who weren't working, and that you were trapping people into a sort of cycle of deprivation?
I understand the cycle of deprivation. I've seen it. And at no point did I comment that the government policy in itself was wrong. What I said was that there are clear implications of it, as indeed you said yourself, which to see real before our eyes, knocking on your door, a family in destitution in a country as wealthy as this, is a disgrace. That should not happen.
And so when ministers say you don't really know what's going on, your answer is I do, because priests from inner city parishes around the country come to me.
Sometimes it's suggested that people have recourse to food banks because food then becomes a commodity they can sell on. Well, when I send a list to my priests and they say when they put through the food bank 3 days' food in front of a woman with her children and she bursts into tears because she hasn't eaten for 3 days, that's not a fantasy. That's human lives. And I think one of the great gifts of Pope Francis is to say to us, mainly through his gestures, we must protect the dignity of people, even if they've got a disformed face, or even if they're very limited in their physical mobility. Their essential human dignity is what we must uphold and protect.
Do you think, therefore, there are aspects of our current welfare system that are immoral?
I think the current welfare system does need reform, and I don't disagree with the principles on which the government is working. But it cannot be at the cost of casting people into destitution. I don't believe that is motivational. And in fact, some of the priests who are right there on the ground say it comes across as punitive. Now, I do think the sources and the reasons for that kind of poverty are complex, and we have to look at them. And indeed, I'm going to get some of our priests together and say, tell me those stories. And I know we can have a conversation with government officials on that line.
The last time we talked, you were an archbishop, and now you're a cardinal. What is the difference in terms of your authority in the church and what you can do?
In this country, not at all. In terms of church life, people seem to pay a bit more attention to what I say, and I get a lot more tasks and jobs to contribute to the work of the Holy See in Rome. So I'm going to
have some wonderful red gear which you're not wearing this morning.
No, I'm sorry about that.
And that represents your willingness to die for the church, is that right?
That's true. That's the imagery lies behind that choice of colour. It's also the colour of the cardinal bird. And one of the things about the cardinal bird, it has a greater range of melodies and songs than practically any other bird anywhere. So I'm looking forward to having it on Tweet of the Day.
It's also, of course, the colour of Liverpool FC, and I know that you have been on the terraces of Anfield in your time many times.
Yes.
In fact, that is where I think you had your calling.
Well, you quite like that. It was where I wanted to resist this sense of vocation more than anywhere else. I remember quite vividly saying, I was at the Anfield Road end, I was saying, God, why can't you just leave me alone? Why can't I just be one of this crowd? I'd be much happier. But he wouldn't, and he wouldn't go away. But I would add, I don't think I've had a really depressed day ever since I was ordained a priest. It's a wonderful way of life.
And when are we going to see, do you think, Pope Francis coming to this country?
Well, he's not a young man. I think he's got his agenda very clearly in his mind. I'm not sure that being an international traveller is part of it. He's pacing himself very clearly. His next visit will be to the Holy Land, to the Middle East, and that is obviously strategically very, very important. So I would imagine he'll pick his trips with great care, but he's a man of steel as well of great humanity.
Well, it's been lovely talking to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning.
Thank you.